accept the fact that you're not going to be able to understand every single element. They're all just going to kind of congeal and just moosh around in your brain. It's okay. You can just plow through. So then you can just plow through. Sandy Says Read, and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to do a review and discussion of From the Depths. This is a book for our Indie Book Spotlight. It is written by B.S.H. Garcia, and it is a novel in the Heart of Kinaria fantasy series. It's a prequel to that series, and there is another prequel to that series that is a novelette that is available from the author for free if you subscribe to her newsletter. And I will put a link to her website, her stuff in the information box below. Let's begin by looking at the specs, as we do. Right. This is From the Depths. Let's see. It was published in February 2024. Get it up there where you can see it better. All right, the author is B.S.H. Garcia. This is from Lost Relic Publishing, which is an imprint of the author. It is the author's imprint. So it is squarely in the indie publishing circles for our indie book spotlight playlist. I'll spit it out there for you guys. Okay, the cover design is from MIBL Art, capital MIBL Art. The silhouette art that you see there on the front cover, all of those silhouettes and elements that you see there are done by Jared Garcia, which is the author's husband. This particular version is 134 pages, plus at the end there's an author's note. There are 3-ish pages of the races of Kinaria, and then there are 8.5 pages of glossary. This matters. This matters because so much of this book is filled with world building. So much of this book is reliant on the reader suspending disbelief and just immersing yourself in this world of nouns and names that you don't know. So that glossary back there comes in very handy. Let's see. It's written in third-person point of view, past tense. Hooray, that's my jam. And let me read the back cover for you. The world can sustain the needs of many, but the greed of a few can destroy it for all. In a life steeped in peril, the Brune family has thrived on the knife's edge. Renowned for their smuggling and bounty exploits, Konar and Carlea's parents command both respect and fear. Comfortable yet haunted, the family faces the constant threat of perilous assignments, leaving scars that even a parent's protective embrace can't heal. Still, Konar dreams of scholarly pursuits, and Carlea sees the world as something ripe for the taking. When the Emperor dangles an irresistible offer, a job to end their dangerous pursuits forever, the Brunes seize the chance. But there's a catch. The item in question is little more than a myth, deemed impossible to find. As the family embarks on the voyage of a lifetime, their bonds are tested like never before. Locating and securing the prize will require sacrifices beyond measure. And when your family is in the business of pirating, trust is the greatest myth of all. And yeah, trust is... nobody should be trusted. Trust no one. All right, let's talk a little bit about... Let's go with the Sandy synopsis. Let me give you the Sandy synopsis next. I wrote down, what is it? Go find the difficult to find treasure that only a chosen one can obtain and bring it to the big tyrant. That was my Sandy synopsis. I want to be cautious not to give away every spoiler for this book, just in case you guys want to go out and read it for yourself. It is not a long read at 134 pages. This took me maybe, I don't know, 2.5, 3 hours to read one evening. Okay, it was not a long read at all. You guys might remember when I was talking about some shorter indie books that I was interested in reading, I I picked this one up for that purpose. And it is a shorter indie book. Then there was a BookTube tag or a BookTube challenge here on BookTube where we took a handful of books off the shelf, like 7 to 10 books off the shelf, and we read the first paragraph from each book. And when we read that first paragraph, we then ranked those books according to that paragraph in an order where we would read them, like which one will we read next on our TBR based on that paragraph. And this was one of those books that I chose from the shelf to look at and to read the first paragraph of. When we did that, you guys, I was startled by the font used in this book. Let me get that up there where maybe you guys can see that. Can you tell? That font is just a little bit difficult to work with. I did have some difficulty with this font, but even with a difficult font to read, it only took about 2.5 to 3 hours to get through this book. It moves at a quick pace. The story moves along and it moves at a quick pace. Okay. It's a good story to move along quickly. We're going to go over the good and the problematic in this book. This is going to be an honest review for us to talk about. And I want to mention, yes, the pirate getup is happening here. I look like a cross between Lestat and Will Turner. Yeah, there you go. That's what's happening here. This is supposed to be a fantasy costume. I use it for fantasy stuff, but it works as a pirate. And given my propensity for sitting around with my birds sitting on my shoulders, you would think I would be more into pirate stories. You would think I would have more pirate stories to bring you guys. It's kind of strange that I've read 2 pirate books here in 2025. I brought you The House of the Four Winds, and now I'm bringing you From the Depths. And I don't know. I don't think I'm huge into pirate stories. I don't think that's my bag. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's because you can't trust a pirate. You can't trust any of these pirates. As we're going to discuss in this, I want to be careful. I mean, it should be common knowledge. You can't trust pirates, right? It should be common knowledge. They're going to stab each other in the back. It's going to be, some characters are going to be duplicitous. I won't tell you which ones, but yeah. To keep from spoiling plot twists and developments, I won't tell you all the characters who are duplicitous. But keep in mind, pirates can't be trusted. As Elizabeth Swann would say, bloody pirates. Okay, what else? Shall we move on to the next page of my notes? Let's talk about our characters. Our main characters in the story are Konar, mentioned on the back cover. He is 12 years old. Carlia, she is 8 years old. They're brother and sister. But in this novel, we do not use the terms brother and sister. Brother is actually Britata, and sister is Setata. That's the language. Their surname is Brune, but some of the characters call their father Breinhart instead of Brune. His name is Corandon Brune. Their mother is Zora Brune. It is refreshing to have a middle grade novel where the main characters are the middle grade children and their parents are not dead. They are not orphans. We have a family unit. We have a nuclear family, and that nuclear family works together. And that is intriguing to me. I thought that was cool that the family is together. Now, they're a little bit dysfunctional, as most families are. I mean, they're a little bit dysfunctional. The father, and we don't call them father and mother. They are Appa and Amma. The father, the Appa, Corandon Brune, he is a big, well-known pirate. Everyone knows he is a mercenary pirate. He will do the jobs he's been paid to do, whether that's the emperor paying him to do them or someone else. And I think he's a little bit cutthroat, okay? And people know this about him, that he will take on the tough jobs, he'll get the tough jobs done, and he'll come back victorious and make some money at it, all right? Then there is Zora Brune. She is an Auskata. Auskata is a term that we figure out is kind of like, I want to say it's a witch, but it's not a witch. When we go to the page 142 in the glossary, it tells us what the Auskata is. Let me read it for you. The Zalosi word for a person, most often a woman, who professes or is supposed to practice magic or sorcery, also used in Azar. Zalosi and Azar are places in this world. Okay, so she is an Auskata, but she's not like practicing her magic and practicing this sorcery on a regular basis. And throughout the novel, she does have to go to a more mentor-like, a more superior, supreme Auskata to get information and stuff and things, and learn some things and move our plot along. I'm not going to give that away, but things happen, and then she comes back home and does some stuff. Yeah, okay. Brune, let's see. Brune being their last name. At one point I wrote in here, is Brune their surname or a type of pirate? Because I was confused by that. And I was kind of confused as to why this family had to have a surname, whereas other characters didn't seem to. But I think that's because they were pirates and they were from Zalosi, and other characters are from other places. And not every place, I don't think, every place has surnames, but this family does. So they do. As we do in these reviews, I want to read a couple of the passages that give you a flavor of the author's writing style as we go through some of these points that I wanted to make. Some of these points I wanted to point out. The author, Garcia, she has built a full, complete, deep world for these characters to work in. Okay, the Heart of Kinaria series, there are books in that series out there that I have not read, obviously, and this novella is a prequel to those. It takes place about 1,000 years before those novels. So our characters are existing 1,000 years before that, but the quest that they go on, the stuff that they do, supposedly affects that timeline up in the future. Okay, so we have this family going on a quest. We did say that on the back cover, right? They do go on a quest to get something important. Locating and securing the prize will require sacrifices beyond measure. Okay, the emperor basically tells Breinhart he has to go on this quest. He has to go get an item. I don't want to give it away. He has to go get this item. So the pirate, he has to assemble a crew for his ship, and they have to go on this quest. The kids, I mean, obviously, is it too much for me to say the kids go on this quest? The girl, she's 8 years old, and yet she does kind of sneak onto the quest. The family was going to leave her behind. I mean, she's 8. Come on. They were going to leave her behind because she's young and they don't want her on this quest. It's dangerous. But she like sneaks back to their house, and she's like in a net under the house, paying attention to or watching this ceremony that happens. And because she watches because she's there, because she is like seen in a vision during the ceremony, she has to go along. So the whole family goes on this quest. It does tell us that, right? I didn't just totally give this away, did I? The family faces constant threat of perilous assignments. Yeah, they do go. The family embarks. Okay, yeah. The family embarks on the voyage of a lifetime. So all 4 of them go on this thing. And there is turmoil. There is danger. There is danger. I'm going to leave it at that. So let us talk about some of the points in the novel that I wanted to go over with you guys. Page 13. On page 13, Carlia and her brother Konar have just come through an event on the beach where Carlia was trying to pickpocket a group of highborns, and she failed. She screwed up, and they almost kill her. So Konar has to step up and try to help her, try to defend her. He almost gets murdered too. I mean, it's an introduction to Carlia as a thieving little pirate's kid, right? She's a little bit saucy. She's a little bit young. She's a little bit immature in this when we first meet her, and she's playing up this innocent act and lying to these people to get them to give her some coin, and she's then tries to pickpocket them, tries to steal some coin, and they catch her doing this, so they're going to beat her up or kill her or whatever they're going to do. And her brother, Konar, decides, oh, I've got to help her. So he's coming to her rescue. He has a knife in his boot that he pulls out. And he's going to do something with this knife, but he realizes, oh my gosh, I now have to use this knife that I've pulled. And he hesitates. All right. He's not as brave as he wants to be. So our introduction to these two characters is that they're not exactly great characters. They're not exactly stand-up individuals. Now, Konar tried, so kudos to him, but they do get away. Obviously, we have a whole book full of them, right? They do get away. They don't get killed, and they decide, okay, we're gonna swear not to tell our parents what just happened. We're not going to tell Amma and Appa what happened today. We're not going to tell them that I almost got myself killed by these highborns. I tried to steal money from them, and they pinky swear on it. They pinky swear that, she's not going to try to do this again, and they're not going to tell their parents what's happened. And I wrote in the margin, pinky swear with a question mark, because this is only on page, 22 and 23, where we're getting to this point where they do their pinky swear. But up to this point, we have had just dozens of these strange words thrown at us. So much of this world building has been thrown at us. So much unfamiliar stuff is being fed to us, in a very quick pace, so that the reader is being thrown into this world. So for these two to suddenly do a pinky swear caught me off guard. I was like, wait, they're pinky swearing? That's very much our world. And it did take me out of the world building for a minute, because I'm like, well, wait, it took me out enough that I wrote pinky swear with a question mark. Here's the thing. That pinky swear comes back again toward the end of the book. There's another moment where they pinky swear again. And I liked the callback. Yes, it was strange to have that very earth, present day feel item in there. It felt strange that was a part of this world too, but it was cool that the brother and sister had that again later. I liked that they had that again. Okay, let's go to page 30, because there was a really nice sentiment from the character Amma on page 30. Now, Konar is closer to his Amma than to his Appa, and Carlia is closer to her Appa than she is to her Amma. They are, it's just the way their relationship has shaken out, okay? And Konar, through the first, the first chapter or two, when we're in Konar's point of view, we get this feel that the Amma is a loving and nurturing character, a loving and nurturing presence in their world. But then when we meet her, the first time we meet her, she's drunk and she's making dinner, but she's drunk and the smell of alcohol is coming off of her, and she's argumentative, and she goads Appa into a fight, and he goads her into a fight too. It's not just one-sided. But I had the feel of her being this loving and nurturing and wonderful presence. And then we met her, and it was like the wool had been, the rug had been taken out from under me when we met her. Because I'm going, well, wait, she's supposed to be wonderful, and she's kind of horrible. Well, that was the dysfunctional family coming into play when we met her and Appa. But she does something lovely on page 30. She and Konar are guiding this like flat boat along the shore, picking kelp and stuff, fish, whatever. And they're having a conversation about his lack of ambition. And Amma faced the approaching coastline. You've always been a curious boy, Konar, full of questions and silent speculation. She peered over her shoulder at him, gave him a wink. Don't let your skepticism poison you against the world. There's always some good in it, in people, I promise. And I think that is lovely. For all of her faults that we see in this book, she loves her son. And throughout this book, she loves her son. Okay, she is protective of her son. And in this moment, in this passage right here, she's telling him, like, don't let your skepticism poison you against the world. There's always some good in it and in people. I don't know if I believe that later on, but she's cautioning her son not to let the world kick him in the butt. Okay, then let's go to page 61. And I'm going to read this for the author's style. And I think that some foreshadowing snuck in here, as well as a flashback and just stuff. There's just stuff going on here I wanted to share. As far as Konar knew, Azra was indifferent to him. Azra, Barky, there's a bunch of characters that we're meeting here on the pirate ship. As far as Konar knew, Azra was indifferent to him, not as fond as Barky or as full of hatred as Garosa. But given the right, or rather wrong, circumstances, that indifference could prove deadly. It wasn't that Konar liked to think of his Appa's closest partners, the sailors and allies he called upon for any and all undertakings, would kill him for the right price. It was the plain and simple truth. Garosa had never forgiven him for the slip of his tongue that fateful night 3 years ago, and he never would. No matter that the consequences that followed hadn't been intentional, that Konar had only been 9 at the time and not properly educated in the way adults conducted themselves. At least the adults Appa kept close. How was he supposed to know not to run to the village center and alert the Rujpati when he caught Garosa dragging a muffled but still thrashing woman behind stacks of grime-covered barrels on the docks? That despite Appa's insistence upon bringing Konar along to oversee a transaction, the Breinhart would slip away to meet with a lady friend while Amma nurtured a sick Carlia back home. Even Barky had been passed out in a drunken stupor, leaving Konar alone to witness the atrocity and fend for himself. He'd stood there on that dock, cold for the first time since he could remember, while what felt like hours crawled by. It was likely only minutes. And then the woman must have broken free for a moment, for she screamed a blood-chilling cry that was cut off abruptly. Dark blood pooled on the already stained dock and snaked toward Konar's feet with foreboding intent. Then 2 glimmering eyes peered over the barrels. They narrowed, unblinking. But Konar was already running, tears as salty as the ocean streaking down his cheeks. Garosa didn't follow, perhaps didn't want to take the risk of explaining what happened to his captain's son had he silenced him then. But ever since, Konar knew he was marked. Given the chance, the Beridian would kill him in the most painful way imaginable. He shook his head to chase the memory away. Most people had it wrong. Pirates were folks of integrity who held strongly to their morals. It was just that they created their own code of what they deemed right and wrong. And Konar had broken it. Okay, now that whole passage, it is an info dump, but it's a flashback and foreshadowing. And I wrote there, info dump, flashback, and I bet this is foreshadowing. Yeah, and it is. That Beridian, Garosa, he is actually a cat-like being. He is tall and he is covered in fur. He's got whiskers, that narrowing of his eyes. He is a cat. He's got claws. He is a cat-like creature, and he springs like a cat when he needs to. Okay, he's monstrous at times. Let's go to page 82 for another read for the author's style. This is the end of a chapter where we've had a sea serpent come up out of the waters, and this sea serpent has taken down a ship. Now, it's not the ship that Carlia is on, because Carlia's point of view is we're in her point of view. That's what I'm trying to say. We're in Carlia's point of view, and she is thinking about this sea serpent, and she's frightened. I mean, she's an 8-year-old kid. She's frightened by what she has seen. She's hearing voices in her head. And courage evaded Carlia, but she gave Amma the confidence she sought by forcing a smile and nodding her head once for affirmation, the way Appa did after a business agreement was made. She didn't cry again either, not as heat blossomed below her feet, or as sparks shot up from the trap door leading to the lower decks. She didn't complain as she, Barky, Azra, Garosa, Appa, Amma, and a still unconscious Konar stole away to a special land boat, the best boat, the one with proper oars and food and drink, the one hidden inside a false wall behind Appa's cabin, the one built for crossing vast amounts of water, not for merely staying afloat like the others. Nor did she scream when Appa and his crewmates cut through their own men and women who tried to prevent their escape, tears building in their eyes as they watched the light fade from their brethren's. And as they rowed away from the Umbra, its masts snapping and crackling in the flames, its sails shriveling and curling until they were nothing more than ash, she didn't allow her mind to linger on what hid beneath the now tranquil waters of the Valak Ocean. She did pray, however, spilling silent pleas like tears to whatever deities would listen, once again reminding them to keep her and hers safe, that she'd do anything, should they survive what lay ahead. Let it be content with its spoils, she said in the dark, still places of her mind, the ones unmarred by fear, the ones slowly blossoming into the adult she'd become. Don't let it return, please. And then a seed of a thought, that voice again that wasn't entirely her own, the one she'd first heard beneath the floor of her family hut after Amma's ritual. It will not return, not until it listens to you and you alone. The end of this chapter, I mean, it shows you how Garcia is weaving this tale and how she's showing us the escape that this family makes. She's showing us all of this, but she's making some promises that we lose track of too. I mean, this voice that's talking to Carlia is telling her this sea serpent, it won't return until it listens to you and you alone. We don't get back to that. We don't go back to this idea of the sea serpent listening to Carlia. That's just, we don't. Spoiler, sorry, but we don't. And that obviously that bothered me. That bugged me. Something else that caught my attention in this passage, and I wrote out to the side, suddenly appearing longboat. We have some suddenly appearing things in this novel. The suddenly appearing longboat is one of them. There was never a mention of a false wall in Appa's cabin when we were in there before. We didn't use it to hide behind. We didn't knock on it. We didn't discuss it. We didn't mention it. We didn't notice like a flaw in the wall, nothing. So that's a suddenly appearing longboat there. We have on page 103, we have the suddenly appearing doll. Carlia is, so much has happened, so much. As the sun crusted the waters and warmed the deck with its golden heat, Carlia couldn't shake the chill coursing through her like a current. She reached into her pocket and squeezed her doll for comfort, twisting the lengths of its leather strand hairs about her fingers. This is the first mention of this doll. I don't recall ever mentioning this doll at any point in this book. We're on page 103. I want to know, I don't know when she would have gotten to her, I don't want to give away anything, but I don't know when she would have gotten this doll into her pocket. I don't know how this would have happened. I don't know how this doll stayed in her pocket. I don't know where this doll came from. So that took me out of the story. On page 88, hang on, let me get there for you guys. On page 88, we have suddenly appearing everything. Let me stop because I'm about to give something away there. So let's skip down. Appa unrolled the small map he kept strapped to his hip in a watertight case. I'm not going to read any more because right after that gives away something. So I don't want to give anything away. But Appa unrolled the small map he kept strapped to his hip in a watertight case. And I'm like, and I wrote here, suddenly appearing everything. The small map, we'd never heard of this before. The watertight case, what? We had not heard of watertight cases until this moment. And this is page 88. What did I say? Yeah, page 88. So things just suddenly appear. And I wish that Garcia had given us some like hints. I wish she had dropped some hints so that when that stuff happens, it's not suddenly appearing and it's not taking the reader out of the story. The story is a strong story. the storyline is good. And so it's easy to follow the storyline, and you're trucking along and you're cruising along and you're following these characters and they're in peril and you're with them. And then suddenly appearing watertight case with a map in it. It takes you out of the story. And I wish that it didn't. So, okay, let's move on. I don't want to be complaining because I would like to Oreo cookie this with some really good stuff now. Okay. I've done a little bit of complaining, but I don't want to just complain. There's really good things happening too. On page 117, how can I discuss this without giving away what happens? Okay, we're going to talk about the Arzoks. Arzoks are like dragons, similar to dragons, and I'm going to read a description of them so that you can hear about them. Before I do that, we're going to do the thing that we do here at the channel with the hashtag sign, because I'm going to read you a paragraph and it will give something away. It will spoil something. It will spoil something, and I don't want to spoil it. So I'm going to hold up the hashtag sign, which is your sign to turn down the volume for like probably 2 or 3 minutes. And when I put the sign back down, you can turn the volume back up, because this is a little bit spoilery, and I don't, yeah. Okay, are we ready? The hashtag sign is up, which means your volume should be down if you don't want this to spoil things, because the Arzoks, which protect Amma and Appa, die. And I am so sad about that. Okay, the deck was a blur of swinging limbs and weapons. Both Amma and Appa had escaped their bonds, but not the prison of the platform. Appa's Arzak hung over the railing, her wings torn, her body contorted. Carlia couldn't see her head. Amma's came in for another attack, then another, until Amma shouted for him to flee. He made it a few feet away from the hut before one of the masked men's arrows took him down. And I wrote in the margin, dang it. I mean, the Arzoks, they probably have, all told, maybe 2 pages of screen time in the novel where they're discussed, where they're shown, where they interact with the characters. Amma's Arzok in particular is very friendly with Konar, as friendly as they can be. And there's probably like 2 pages worth of words about them. And yet their deaths right there in that paragraph just made me sad. I felt more about their deaths than I did about the sad things and the danger things that were happening to the family at that point. I was more concerned about the Arzoks than the family. Okay, so I'm putting the hashtag sign down, which means it's now safe to come on back. It's safe to turn your volume back up. You can come on back, and we're going to talk about the Arzoks a little bit without giving anything away that happened in that paragraph there. I want to mention that the Arzoks, they are the dragon-like creatures that can be bonded to people. And let's go to the glossary where we talk about the Arzoks, and I'll read it for you. Arzok, a nocturnal flying mammal with sizable fangs and forelimbs adapted as wings, native to Zelos. Now, Zora, the Amma, she has an Arzok that is bonded to her, and Appa, he has an Arzok that is bonded to him. And these Arzoks, they're giant flying lizards, and they were suddenly appearing in one of the chapters early on, but they are, they're cool creatures. They're not like pets, and they're not around all the time. They show up when they're needed. They are able to like scout out ahead during certain parts of the journey. They're there when they need to be. They're pretty cool. All right. Is that everything? I want to say that, as part of the good in the Oreo cookie review here, this was a strong story. It was a good story. It really felt at times like a middle grade novel, middle grade novella, with our 2 main characters being, middle grades, 8 and 12, and that simple yet rich storyline of, we need to go get this treasure. And there's a chosen one who is able to, receive or obtain or find, that treasure. There's a chosen one who can find it, who can do that. But should that chosen one do that? There's there's implications, there's ethical implications to finding this treasure. You know, there's an internal as well as an external danger, struggle going on here. Yeah. So it's a very fine story in that way for a middle grade story. But then, like on the next page, you turn the page and there's like horror and mayhem and death and gruesome bloody deaths, and it's more of like a new adult horror novel happening. So I don't know if I would classify this as something that you would hand to a middle grade reader and say, oh, here's a great pirate book for you. These pirates are cutthroat, and some of the things that happen are devastating. So yeah, those horror elements took over the story in a way that I was keenly aware of. Yeah. And I didn't mind because and I didn't mind because I am an adult reader and I don't mind reading horror and gruesome deaths. I don't mind that. But a middle grade reader might have some problems with it. I should mention the story is told from Konar's point of view and Carlia's point of view. They each get oh my gosh, you guys, not rotating chapters, but they each get their own chapter. Yeah, there you go. Is that enough? Have I talked about it enough? It's a good pirate story with, you know, duplicitous and untrustworthy pirates all over the place and cool dragons, Arzoks in the skies. I can recommend From the Depths for an older reader. I don't know that I would recommend it for a middle grade reader. Even though it's got middle grade elements, it has some stronger elements in there too. So there we go. Thumbs up for pirates and sea serpents, stuff like that. Thank you so much for tuning in.